Hi, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Venture Forward podcast. I think we decided on the last one, Trav, it's now a podcast, not a webinar.
Yeah, we're officially podcasters
Officially
now.
podcasters
Getting rid of
now.
the webinar titles, officially podcasters.
Well, I've
Up
reached
in
that
the
age.
And what we're here to talk about today, vendor negotiation, navigating the tough talks with Amazon, and probably one of the meatier conversations I'm hoping we're going to get into. Before I introduce you guys, I suspect most people that are watching this have watched before, but hey, I'm Andy. I'm CEO of Venture Forge, and we're a leading Amazon agency in the UK, working with brands that typically do between £2 and £10 million on Amazon. And we're starting to bring our podcast series to life to help share some of that experience, some of those stories from brands, partners, other people that have been around the block a bit in the professional sense and have a few war stories to share themselves. So that's me. Thank you for joining us. To the left, have Travis.
Yeah, thanks. I'm Travis, head of vendor services. Been in the Amazon game about 7 odd years now. Feels a lot longer than that. So I don't know if that's good or a bad thing. Started my career at Amazon, health and beauty, going into pharmaceuticals, and now back in the agency game. So done the Holy Trinity, so to say. Looking forward to today.
Thank you, Trav. Two familiar faces, to us at least, and I suspect to most people in the Amazon community. Chris, would you like to say hello?
Well, it's great to be on here. I'm Chris, the co-founder of Ecommerce. We do Amazon EDI integrations for vendors, really all in that operational detail, helping process the orders, make the shipments, make the invoices. And we're really focused on just the day-to-day logistics of helping vendors get product out the door, shipped into Amazon, and received and paid for in the payment claim, which obviously is the whole world to do with shortages and everything else, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, it's great to be here, and thanks for having us on.
James, welcome.
Thank you. I'm James. Not the first time we've done a webinar, but first time we've done a podcast.
Looking like a boy band again, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I am head of ecom for a company called Paladone, and we do licensed gifting goods. So we have the official licenses for Disney, which includes things like Stitch, and then we also have Minecraft, we have PlayStation, we have a load of others. So this is actually my 15th year in the Amazon space, and I think the 13th round of vendor negotiations that I've done.
Wow. Do you want a hug?
No, it's the reason why the hair's quickly receding.
I'd like to say I've got the same excuse, but I think mine's just age. Well, look, guys, thank you very much for joining us and giving up your time to come have what I think will be a good conversation today. You found the hardest part of today, which is try to drink a cup of tea around a microphone, and there is a knack to that, and I'm sure
Mine's well over there. That's gone.
Might be safer to leave it there. Might be safer to leave it. Before we delve into our conversation, really happy if you're watching this live as we're going out with the first kind of release of this episode. If you're watching it on our webinar platform, somewhere down the bottom there'll be a Q&A button. Please get your questions into there. There'll be us guys and a number of our team sat in the background waiting to answer your questions. So please get them in. I'm going to try and remember to prompt people. If I forget, Trav, can you remember?
Don't put this on me, but
we'll share
we'll tag teammates, we'll tag and share the burden.
Before we do that, I also, when we used to do our webinars live, and as a true webinar, we also used to put a poll out, and it'd be really interesting to see those that are watching this live, what are people's biggest challenges right now with vendor negotiations? I'm going to go down to the screen and risk running the same joke that I did on the last one. But let's go with the options we've got. What are your biggest challenges with Amazon vendor negotiations? Is it Amazon pushing back on commercial terms? Probably yes. Is it trying to prove your value with data? Is it navigating co-op or MDF asks from Amazon? Is it getting internal alignment in your business ahead of talks? Is it unsure how to prepare? Or as we said, and probably the right answer, all of the above. Or a fair mixture of all of those and the above. But if you are watching this live, you should now have a little pop-up on the screen. Give us your answer. It's always interesting to see what other people are facing and where their challenges are. I'm going to start with the first question for you guys. Why do people hate vendor negotiations? What is it that typically makes them fearful of the whole conversation with Amazon?
I think from my side, it's just the unsurety of it. You never know where your VM's going to come in from. Obviously, you can track your profitability, you can track your inbound metrics, you can track how well you're doing, but Amazon's releasing new things every single day, and they always hit you with new curveballs. They're like, hey, there's this new logistical program. It's going to save you X amount of time and X amount of days, and they really glam it up. So I think it's just the unsurety of it every single year, and sometimes it feels more reactive than proactive because it's not set on a set date. It's not the 10th of October every year or the 10th of December. I mean, some vendor negotiations open up in the new year, which makes no sense, and it's for that current year. So I think it always feels more reactive than proactive, and you always kind of feel like you're playing catch-up instead of being on the front foot. So I think that leads a lot into it. It's more the unsurety of it than actually the outcome of it, if I can say it like that.
Yeah. And I think because also like your point of contact inside Amazon might be different to who it was 12 months ago. It might be that you've had a relationship with person A, and then when it comes around to doing the terms negotiation, you're now dealing with person B, and then try and leverage. Oh, when we spoke with person A, we were talking about this, and we're going to agree that, and they say that's cool. We want this.
Yeah.
And then you're suddenly like, okay, now I've got to go back to the company and say, hey, I know we were on X%. They want X plus 5% for this or something like that. And trying to explain to someone to say, it's the same company, but it almost feels like you're resetting the relationship. Not necessarily every year, but some people it feels like every single time. I mean, if you've done this 13 times, you have to keep pulling the pence back to where you want
And it's
to
the
be.
same thing every time, you still get that nervousness of what is that initial ask going to be? Because I've been setting the scene for 6 months in advance to say, this is what I think they're going to ask for. They're going to ask for 7%, 10%.
You mean
whatever.
internally?
Internally, yeah. And then it still pops up and you still have to do that game of, well, this is why. But if you think about it as well, most of the people that are starting these negotiations are salespeople. And so everything that you want to do is to hit a sales number. You want growth. You want to be able to go and give good news stories. In order to be a salesperson, you always have to be that eternal optimist. And then you have to go into the business and say, we need to give Amazon another 5% or they're going to switch off our orders for 6 months. And that's a difficult conversation, and salespeople don't like difficult conversations. They like easy conversations. And so that fear starts because you know that that's going to start coming through.
Yeah, I think also like on the other side, the Amazon account manager, to them, I mean, there's probably quite a great relationship with some brands, but they've got a whole list of accounts they've got to get through.
Yeah.
You're not, I don't want to say you're insignificant to them, but they see your account as like, you've got profit margin, you've got net PPM, you've got your different metrics. They've got their numbers they're working towards. And when they're coming into that conversation, they're going in with, hey, I've got you at this, I would like to get you to that. And that they've got a job to do on their side as well. Yeah. And like you say, they just want to have an easy conversation, get in, we're going to do this, play whatever cards they want, or, depending on how hardball that is for their particular approach. But yeah, they've got their own metrics on their side to hit as well. So you just don't know which way the wind's blown inside Amazon, what those numbers need to be and across the whole category.
Exactly. And I think internally as well for senior stakeholders, if you're in a day-to-day, you know all the details, you know all the nuances, A plus B equals C. Whereas if you need to convince that to senior leadership or an FD that's overlooking an entire business, they don't want to go into the granularity of Amazon. They don't need to. They don't have to. They don't do the day-to-day. So if you go to them and they're like, they want 2% on MDF and 3% on return right, or whatever it is, they're like, okay, well, what does that mean for me type thing? And then you need to try and break it down.
What the hell is PIX?
Yeah, exactly. Trying to convince and some internally.
Yeah.
It's just a whole show. So if you're not in the day-to-day and your senior leadership has zero context of it, trying to convince that and get their buy-in to spend more money, to make more money, it's an uphill battle at times.
So I'm guessing we've all come across Ant Finch. We've got a great relationship with Ant, and I remember Ant saying to me some time back, he views a vendor negotiation as really straightforward, or an Amazon relationship as really straightforward. You want to sell Amazon something at a price. They want to buy it off you. They want to get it in on time. They want to sell it. They want to make the right margin. So the essence for me of a vendor negotiation is no different to selling to Argos, you trying to sell something to me, Chris. But there's something in the Amazon world that Amazon is a big beast, it's a big monster. I think it's that terrifies people. Like the concept of a vendor negotiation isn't hard. Do you want to buy what I'm selling at the right price? But it never, ever feels that straightforward.
It's no different to 20 years ago in Tesco. 20 years ago with Tesco, it was Tesco have told us that they're paying this price for the product or they're not taking it. They'd look at it and say, this company, we have to sell to them because otherwise we're not going to sell anything. They can kill our business. But that big scary is now Amazon, and the world's just moved, the world's changed. And ultimately they are important to your business, and they could be your biggest customer. They could be 30% of your business. So you need that revenue, and the fact that they're going to come in and it feels like dictate to you what should be happening. Now we all know, and most of the people watching this also know, that those prices, those requests are driven by something that you have most likely done as a business.
Yes.
But trying to sell that up is always difficult.
Yeah.
And it's not always just a set and forget. It's not like, we sell it to you and you sell it on and that's that. If they start price matching throughout the year, they're like, your margin's not there anymore. We need more accretive numbers. You need to invest more. You need to run promotions. You need to try this logistical program. You increase your selection. It's not just a set and forget. It's constantly evolving, constantly talking. I don't want to say they move the goalpost, but it kind of feels like it sometimes, essentially throughout the year. They just move the goalpost based on terms.
Just to back what you're saying there, to what extent do you think Amazon needs the vendor? Like, I think with some brands, like, think of the huge high street name brands, like, to some extent they say, well, we have to have this brand. They can't just stop having Sony or, I don't know, George Foreman. Lego.
Yeah.
Amazon will always have to have them in the 1P space. They'll always be there. But a smaller vendor, like, 1, 2, 5 million, something like that, do you think that the brand can actually wield back and say, oh, fine, you're not having it? And do you think Amazon's just going to say, okay, we don't really mind? Or do you think that there is a bit of, is it completely imbalanced relationship, or is there some middle ground?
It does depend on who you are. There is always a bit of gamesmanship there as to, actually who
Like
holds
calling
the
the bluff.
power and calling the bluff and that type of thing. But like you say, if you are a Lego, then the chances are you're going to have a much easier conversation. It's not going to be easy every year, but you're coming from a position of power. They need to have you. But if you are a low profitability account that has been dropping year on year and is a small account anyway, the chances are you're not going to be that important to Amazon. Whereas if you're showing high growth numbers, I mean, you'll be able to say better than anyone what vendor managers are actually targeted on. If they're showing growth and profitability, they're hitting their net PPM numbers, you're going to be important to them. So if you're at least showing willing, it's going to be a much different conversation to, no, we're not giving you our brand, despite the fact that actually our brand is difficult to you.
Yeah, because you don't want to be too stubborn. But equally, you don't want to be just roll over and die to whatever they ask for. And the clash negotiations, you never say yes to the first offer.
battles.
Well, that's for me is where some of that fear comes from. To pick an example from some clients we're talking to at the moment, they've come round to their vendor negotiations. There's been some challenges over net PPM caused by Amazon incorrectly price matching their products in another channel that's a slightly different product in a slightly different type of channel. Killed net PPM. Our client has gone to us, well, this is the journey. We made you aware of that. Net PPM has now gone positive. We've worked together. And Amazon's views being, we want X, Y, and Z out of you, or we're pulling your POs. And overnight, POs got pulled and the buy box across every single line. So it's these kind of stories that I think you hear where who's got the bigger balls in the conversation for negotiation. Amazon are, in some instances. Would they do that to Lego? Probably not, because Lego is the category. Would they do that to another brand in another generic category with many more offers on the table? Yeah, absolutely willing to.
Although saying that, you could keep having the purchase orders keep going, and then once you finally make the agreement, they then say, oh, brilliant, and then they backdate it to whenever the negotiations started or something. So, it's then like, okay, we finally agreed on it. And it's like, oh, those last 6 months that we've been doing stuff, we're actually going to start it from back then. And then you've suddenly got this huge, like, 60 grand or whatever it's going to be.
We need a straight payment.
Settlement. Yeah, exactly. Just to kind of settle up and you're like, oh.
To counterbalance that story, I have heard of one brand in particular that did the opposite to Amazon. They pulled their vendor account. They sort of look
just cancelled everything.
Amazon were coming with very tough terms and negotiations, and this particular brand was multi-territory with different agreements in different territories. Some territories were great, some territories were appalling, and the brand had the power to Amazon. It was again, I want to be careful who I share it as, but it's a multi-brand group. We've probably all got some of their product, but they had the strength to say to Amazon, you know what, we're going to fight you back on this, and for a period, we're going to say no. And Amazon came to they didn't crumble, but they came to the table for a much more proactive conversation. I think it's the balance of power. Who's got the balance of power in that conversation? Who needs who? Probably dictates how ballsy you can be in those conversations. Don't want to drag us down a hybrid route. On the last one, we got to 15 minutes before hybrid.
Made it into 9 previously.
nine last time.
New record.
Having options up your sleeve. You're being prepared to go into a vendor negotiation with some backup plan. I'm willing to pull out myself. I've got a backup channel that I can operate through. Might give you a bit of strength.
Can it ever remain friendly? I mean, does it have to get completely adversarial, or can it just be, like you're saying at the start, they want your product, you want to sell the product? Does it always have to dissolve into conflict, or can it stay? I mean, it's just conflict in one way. What do you think?
I think it can, but you need to have that relationship with your VM or the SVM or the cat lead, and I think that only really comes with the balance of power. I think also having that sort of interpersonal relationship to be like, look, I know you need to hit your net PPM KPIs, and you hit your selection KPIs, and you need to sell me these things. I don't want them. What can I give you in return to hit your KPIs? And then it helps my business. So I think getting that mid-par, easier said than done, in all honesty, but it has been done and we have seen it. But I think it really depends on the interpersonal relationships that you have with your VM and the SVM community at all.
Spot on. You know, I look back at some of the negotiations I've had in the past. My very first vendor manager that I worked with at Amazon was actually one of the last that I worked with when I disappeared off to the seller world for a while before coming back in. And our last terms negotiation that we had was done over a curry in London. And
you got a face-to-face meeting with Amazon for a
That's
vendor
what I'm
negotiation
over a curry,
Over a curry.
that they paid for.
James is a
Show
wizard.
off.
So
Show off.
Teach us your ways.
But the thing that it came over, like you say, years of proving trust. You know,
Yes.
this is what I say I will do. We will work together on this. I know you want your 7%. We can't give the 7%, so this is where we will come to. But we'll work with you in the back end to try and recover the rest of the way. And similarly, this year, you know, the terms, you know, it did go on for a lot. We didn't start until the new year because we're such a seasonal business. Actually, it's very difficult for us to start those
You need the
negotiations
headspace
then.
over peak as well.
Exactly. And it was, you know, it was very clear. This is what we need. This is our net PPM requirement. We're out from that. How do we get there? But it was a really nice meeting. It was very, very productive because the year prior, I'd said, I'm going to bring these growth numbers. And just trust me, this is what's going to happen. We then walk in with a huge growth number year on year, and it's a case of, okay, actually, you're in a slightly different space. But that first initial one, you know, you don't know each other. And this is one thing that people always forget. Yes, Amazon are spitting numbers at you and you're seeing all of this, but there is still that relationship. And if you're not leaning into that relationship, you're always going to be at a loss.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, it sounds like you're now negotiating a year out. You're starting to think about what might happen next year, what relationship do you need to
100%.
build in the coming 12 months. You don't want a net PPM shocker in month 11. You need to be understanding the direction of travel that they want to get into. So you're not getting smellies at the end of your 11-month period. You are preparing and negotiating all the way there.
And it's an internal and external negotiation. You know, I'm already starting to talk to the guys internally about these are the pressures that we're seeing. You know, we've got price matching things going on in the market. This is what could happen to the net PPM ask when you know, and this is where we're heading. And actually, the last year when we went into it, I said to the exec and I said to the board prior, this is the request that's going to come through from Amazon, just purely based on that net PPM number. And I was 0.5% out, but it was exactly what was there. So they were already aware of that. It wasn't a shock to them. But all the way through, I've been monitoring that, seeing the direction of travel, so that when that started, I was prepped, but the business were also prepped.
Yeah.
We were all aligned and we knew exactly what was going to happen.
Do you often have to fact check the numbers you get from Amazon? Because I know they come in, they start the conversation with, you know, hi, here's what we see, bob, 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 we're asking for this. And if you read, you know, their rap sheet, you might say, okay, I can see why they've gone for that, but obviously we can't accept that.
Yeah.
But then do you have to go away and fact check and actually say, hang on a second, you said net PPM for this is this, but I see it as this, and kind of then go back to them and then have that dialogue.
And the net PPM that's shown on Vendor Central won't match either of the two
Yeah.
numbers. And
Yeah, that's the funny one. When they say it's this, and you go, hang on a second, this is all you.
You are the same company as the one on there. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I always ask for more info because the more info they give you, the more you can see they're working. You can then also pull apart the working, and you can go back
and
to
add
them.
and add into it and say,
Yeah, exactly.
where you've got this.
Well, that's the nub of it for me. It's understanding what they're trying to achieve and what angle they're coming from in their negotiation. I don't think anybody ever comes into a negotiation asking for something made up, unrealistic, daft. It's coming from a place of either personally they've got KPIs to hit, business level they've got objectives to hit. It's coming from that. And I think the more you can understand what they're trying to achieve, what's their motivation, surely that's got to be nothing but helpful in trying to steer them to what you want to achieve and what you will find helpful, and find that hopefully nice middle ground.
Definitely, but you know there are situations where actually internal pressures or internal changes, or you know we've gone through an acquisition over the last year, and that's brought a new category, and that category normally at Amazon actually carries a lower net PPM ask. And so when you go into those negotiations, they're still expecting you to hit that top number, but we've just acquired a brand that's really at a lower number.
Operates elsewhere.
And so we know that that's going to be a pressure for them and that particular vendor manager. So we needed to align that before we even started listing products, because actually that ask could have got larger as the year went on, and that's you're onto a loss straight away there if they're not aware of it.
But I think that's where your expertise comes in. It's understanding that if I don't face into that now, and I don't know your numbers, but let's say you've got a 40% net PPM target across your entire catalogue, your new categories operating at 20, you not facing into that up front becomes, hang on, you've got a chunk of your catalogue operating way below expectations. How does that manifest itself in 12 months' time? When they're starting to ask for some cash contribution.
And even before that, we're crapping out all those products.
Yep.
I think we should explain what crap is. Just
Yes.
You always get those awkward looks. You're like, I promise an acronym.
He's done this. Well, we were at a meeting the week. It was crap. And there was another one you dropped in as well. It was like, I just need to pause. I need to pause and explain what I'm saying.
Yeah. So for you listeners, can't realize a profit. Crap. We're not saying it's crap products. It's just unprofitable. Essentially.
Small a.
Yeah.
Is that how they do it?
Yeah. There's no exclamation afterwards.
Yeah. We should do a whole episode on Amazon acronyms. We could go
just
for
get the
hours on that
glossary
kind.
out.
Yeah.
Can we have a plate of tacos in front of us as well?
Yes.
yeah. Here we go. Yeah. Whenever I hear that, it just makes me hungry. I get like keen. I'm like, oh yeah, some tacos.
You've just polished off a full platter of. In fact, no, you haven't. You're the slowest eater. We've just polished off a platter of Domino's. You haven't.
I eat in a store. It's like a bear. I'm just going to hibernation for a little bit of eating. I'm happy for a few days.
So going back to terms, what are you guys seeing the focus on at the moment? Where's Amazon's real attention in terms of negotiations?
With a lot of the clients, it's logistical programs, picks. I don't think we've come across a brand that hasn't been offered picks or super picks now recently, and it really varies in some brands like 3% on picks, and we've had up till 7%. It's like, well, what am I getting for that?
I've seen all the spectrum when it comes
really?
to picks.
Of course, you'll be well exposed to this.
Or some people that they get it kind of bundled together with other stuff. They'll say like, we'll do picks and we'll do a little bit of this MDF and we'll do an AVS, and it's all going to be 12% or it's all going to be 15% or something.
We'll
like
cut
that.
you a deal.
It gets lumped together. Do we need to explain what picks is?
Yes.
Yeah. Go for it.
So, am I doing what you did like this?
Yeah. I just feel you break the fourth wall. You know what I mean?
So it's the Pan-European Inbound Consolidation Service, which is per country. You can then ship just to 1 or 2 fulfillment centers. Usually, it's by product type actually. So for sort, non-sort, and then the heavy bulky stuff. But it's usually 1 FC per country. So it might be like BHX4, LBA4 in the UK, DTM2 in Germany, that kind of thing. And it's really just taking all your shipments that go to like 20, 25 centers and just putting it down into one. So you might still get this, you usually get fewer larger orders, and they're almost always going to be palletized shipments rather than small parcel or small freight LTL shipments. The idea is obviously it's just easier for your warehouse to go out and pull. If you're doing single SKU pallets, it's nice to then just get them out the door rather than having to do small parcel and mixed pallet stuff. But it's still, I mean, probably for your type of business, it's probably still mixed pallets, I would guess. Because if you've got a catalogue of 1,000, 2,000 products, you're still going to have mixed pallets. If you're Coca-Cola, they're not going to be doing. They're going to be doing something else anyway. They'll be on Acapulco. But you know what I mean. They're still just doing full truckload. 18 pallets, 23 pallets, in they go. But for these kind of people, picks, it's just about consolidating the deliveries all into one spot.
And what's your thoughts on like super picks? Because they keep throwing, if you put super in front of something, it just makes it sound more glamorous. But
sounds like money to me.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Because we've also been pitched that quite a few bit. It's like, get on super picks. It's like the next hot thing. And that's more for European sort of fulfillment, isn't it?
It's just, rather than doing one per country, like one in Spain, France, Italy, Germany, it's just it's usually in Germany. I think they just ship it all to one main super hub and then they split it up and go from there. I don't know. I mean, it's logistically nice, but it depends on the freight time. It depends where your warehouse is based. Like if you're able to get to Spain in 2 days, or to the far ends of Italy or wherever else you need to ship to, then I think it can make sense to just do it yourself and not pay the extra. But if you're struggling with that and it just the numbers aren't too bad, then just banging it all into one location, letting Amazon deal with it, then okay, that's kind of their flow.
So what's going through my mind here is, and I think it's good that you've gone down to the explanation of what it is. It's like, why do brands need this? And for me, that's got to be the heart of any terms negotiation conversation. It's all right saying I've got this great service, I want some money into a marketing fund, I want X, Y, and Z. For me, a good
what does it do for me?
Absolutely. What do I need to achieve as a business? What value can Amazon add? Therefore, what should I be paying them for and what shouldn't I be paying them for? We've got brands that have done picks. When you ask, can you do this yourself now cheaper? It might have been great for you 2 years ago, but do you still need it? Oh, no, but it's just in the terms. Well, why are you paying for that then? If Amazon still want money out of your pocket, where else are you going to put it in your negotiation with them to actually get some value?
Yeah. I mean, for some companies, it makes a lot of sense.
Yes, absolutely.
If you add up all your freight costs and then say, well, here's what we're doing per pallet and where we're sending, a pallet that's 60% full, or one that's, we're sending 1.5 pallets, and we're paying for a full pallet each time, and we're sending that all the way across Europe, and that costs us this much money. Yeah. And actually, we could just take all of that freight, make it into fewer, larger shipments, and only send it 100 miles down the road, and it's going to cost us, I don't know, whatever it would be. You run the numbers and you say, actually, it's maybe the same or less than. And then the warehouse, you say to your warehouse manager, are you going to like this? They'll obviously say yes. But equally, then they get the order and they think, whoa, that's a lot of,
there's now 115 lines on it, whereas before it was 6.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, you touched on it slightly there. Whenever I look at anything like that, if it's picks, super picks, double super picks, extra mega picks, I look at that from the P&L perspective, and I just say, okay, are we exactly what you're saying? What's the return? If it's got a return on it, or if it's going to be neutral, and that doesn't need to be directly neutral. Like, it could be massive savings in time on picking, or
like
any
the
of
finances
these.
could be the same, but the time would be better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you think about it from our perspective, our warehouse is down near Brighton. It's down on the south coast, and we'd be sending individual case packs with 6 units right the way up to Manchester. Now, that doesn't price out. That's never going to be a cheap ship. And so when you get down to it, picks made perfect sense. But we have a warehouse in the UK, we have a warehouse in Germany, and we can get into France, Italy, Spain easily. Now, we'll look at super picks, we'll play the numbers, and if it's neutral, brilliant, we'll go for it. If not, it doesn't make sense to us, and we just say no. And where else can we play around with these? And because there's always another initiative.
I think, related to like what you're saying to do with the push for super picks, I feel like it's part of a broader thing with Amazon that they're moving to a pan-EU strategy when it comes to the management across the whole of Europe. I don't know if you feel the same thing, but more broadly, it's not, oh, here's my France manager, here's my Germany and Italy manager. It's very much, you've got a pan-EU account, it gets centrally resourced, potentially even from the Eastern European countries where it gets managed from, or Turkey or somewhere like that. And I think there's been a bit of a drive towards that, rather than having your country manager. And I think super picks is part of that whole picture, just to say, Europe is a block, rather than dealing with per country things. It gets a bit messy having, otherwise you've got terms with France and terms with Germany, and they want it all to be the same across the whole group.
We're seeing it across every Amazon touch point. Consolidation. How can we do something harder, better, faster, stronger, cheaper, simpler? So that one territory view, pushing people on certain programs like Super Picks, doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I think the challenge for me here is I can 100% see how that works for Amazon. Yeah. I think it's very easy to say it, but we often see brands miss this. From your terms negotiation, you've got to know what matters to you. Think about your brand first, because when you start to then face into, do you want picks, super picks, new scheme 1, new scheme 2, new scheme 3, unless you know what you're trying to achieve, it's very easy to get sucked into the glamour of, well, Amazon have offered it, it must be good. Well, no, it's a tool to do a job.
And the other thing as well is make sure it's still working for you. As it's going, make sure it's still working for you, because I spent a couple of years in the seller space, and the one thing that we were very, very careful of is making sure that we were shipping to the right FCs, because otherwise all of our stock would be sat in the middle of the US and all of our customers were on the coasts. And with something like a Super Picks, imagine just sending all of your stock into Germany. Now, is a customer that's sat up in Aberdeen going to still be able to get their 1-day delivery if Amazon haven't distributed that around their network as well as they could have done? And so the further away you are from that last mile delivery, actually, there's potential for those problems. And because we're so seasonal, all of our stock goes in October. It all needs to be sold by the 16th of December. Are we going to be able to move that around the network quick enough to be able to make that work?
If you've got 2 weeks of stock out in that period, that's like...
It's gone.
That's painful.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad you mentioned the US actually as well, just because I want to broaden it out obviously, from that. But in the US, they have similar supply chain programs, but slightly different ones. Yeah. They do like a drop trailer program, for example, where they leave the lorry with you. And then you can just fill it up, and then they just come up, hook it up, and then take it off for them afterwards. Yeah. They do that as well. But they've got the equivalent of picks over there as well, just big depots. But the freight times, obviously, in America are... they're on a different kind of scale to what we're used to here in the UK. Going 5 hours down the road is down the road.
And having freight in your terms is standard in the US.
Yeah.
Whether it's 4%, 6%, 10%, depending on what it is.
Because they're operating the collect model typically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Coming back to terms in the UK, or what people are seeing at the moment, we've talked about what are the common things we're seeing, but what are the common things that people are seeing where you're thinking, Seriously? Is that really? What are the contentious things that Amazon are asking for at the moment where you're thinking, fuck it off? Politely, professionally.
Always anything that's just offering a banner on a page. You know, whether it's a percentage or whether it's a straight pay or whatever, the first question is always, what's the ROI? And we can't give, the instant it's a we can't give that, it's a no. But there are certain ones where you can't see a direct ROI, but it does make sense to you. So, you know, we're involved in a licensing program this year, which is new to Amazon, but it makes sense for us. We're in that space. We want to partner in that. Now, normally, if it was just a banner on a page, I'd be saying no. But actually, that one, we've moved towards this year and is part of our terms for this year. But yeah, anything where it's just a straight pay, we're going to give you this coverage and you get a slot on this page.
It's not worth it.
No.
That's my favourite example.
It's some stuff which is just like throwaway. It's like, yeah, we'll do this. We'll list you with this. We'll post it on that front. You're a bit like, what's that going to do for me? Like, have you got any evidence that says that leads to this kind of level of sales?
You'll be
growth?
amazed how many people sign up for that kind of marketing fun, category banner kind of approach, whatever you want to call it. We've had clients that have done that, and to them, it's like, Amazon going to grow my brand. They're going to put me on the category. What did they do for you last year? Oh, I don't know. They've never shown us. Have you ever asked them? Oh, no, we just assumed they're doing it. And when we then got involved and gone back to Amazon and said, what have we got for that £100,000? Oh, we haven't done anything with it because the brand hasn't asked us to do anything with it. And I think there's got to be some accountability around that. I don't get me wrong, I 100% agree with you. Why would you put your money into something that you can't measure on Amazon? Where the sale from Amazon in terms of Amazon media, any part of Amazon's retail media ecosystem, you can measure it to within an inch of its life. All of a sudden, you can't measure banner adverts. But if you've paid for it, you should at least be being told where it's being used, and you should be holding Amazon to account on that.
Have you had good success asking and drilling into that?
Yeah. So if you ask for your Amazon marketing balance, they normally don't explicitly say, hey, this is your amount that you've accrued. But if you go to Amazon, you say, look, what's my marketing balance? I'd like to spend it on banners and billboards during key periods. Yes, it costs £100,000 a banner or something, but at least it's not money just going straight into Amazon's P&L. So on those types of things, you do see the benefit, but you need to ask. Generally, Amazon doesn't come to you with a big wad of cash and say, do you want to spend this on banners and billboards? Because if it's any money that they can just recoup without you spending, again, though, spending it, you don't really get any metrics out of it. They can't share impression share. They can't share of voice. They can't say how many sales are attributed through that banner. But it is just visibility more than anything. So rather have it and pay something for it than just give Amazon money for free and not get anything out of it.
And it does look good on a slide. And so that's the thing. Look at the coverage that we've got on this slide, isn't it great? And the only other one that's always contentious for me is any increase in just a straight co-op, MDF co-op. Let's increase this by 2%.
Or returns. It's like, well, I've had 60 returns on 100,000 units, but you guys want an extra 2% on returns, right? Or like damage allowance or whatever. It just makes no sense. So definitely something you need to probe.
We'll move on a little bit and talk about tactics for negotiating with Amazon. What levers can brands pull when they're really trying to influence a negotiation? What can you use to your advantage?
I think starting off with the data.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Checking out your historical data, how much money you've spent on X, how much money you've spent on Y, what you've gotten out of it, what your terms were last year, how they've moved to this year, and what you've gotten out of it. And then I think benchmarking, essentially, if you've got peers within the community and you can have open and frank conversations with them, just be like, what's Amazon saying to you? What's your sort of accrual amounts? I think being able to benchmark and look at historical data is probably the first and foremost. So you're not going in blind. You at least have a foundational minimum to know what you're looking at.
Know what you're starting from.
And not to plug another Venture Forge event, but the
no, please do.
He says they're all.
Have I got to do this now? No, the round table events are really, really useful for that. You know, one of my team, she went up and she said it was brilliant because there was no sales pitch and it was just a conversation about what are you guys being asked for, and could be open, could be honest, and then we could look at that against where we were benchmarking ourselves to say, actually, does this still make sense? Because, you know, everyone's kind of operating in a silo and you don't get to see everybody else's working, and those are the opportunities that you get, and so take full advantage of them.
Yeah.
I find the Amazon world quite strange in that respect. I've been around e-commerce 20 odd years. Prior to getting into the Amazon sector, every other part of digital I've been has been really open. People talk, people share a lot. I think the Amazon community is open and is sharing, But to your point, I don't think there's that much transparency between brands as to what's going on. People often keep their world quite closed. I can understand why. If you don't want to talk to your direct competitor about, what's your net PPM, what are you getting out of Amazon, you're not going to get that. But I think the industry needs to do more in opening up. You've got one big retail monster that's got data on every single one of us. They're playing you against player number 2, 3, and 4 in your category. I think there's real strength in those community conversations. How are you dealing with Amazon? What are you getting out of it? I think the more we can do that as an industry, the better.
It's good to have a temperature check of your category as well, because each category, like you said, one might be benchmarked at 40%, another ones might be down at 20, even 10% for some of the more like sharp competitive categories. So knowing, obviously people have a rough feel of minus 15%, so I'm probably in that bracket. But it might be that Amazon says, we need to hit 20, but maybe the industry standard is actually 10, and you're already doing pretty well at 15, for example. Do you know what I mean? So then it's like you're then thinking, oh no, I'm not doing good enough, and then like say talk to your maybe competitors, or maybe you can have, like you say, a bit of an open conversation with someone and actually figure out, or get some consultant or something and just learn, actually my industry is set here, because Amazon will obviously go in saying what they want to hit. We've said this already, but having that, I'd say data would be a good place to start.
Yeah, it's always the data. Get data from them, get data from yourself, get data from others, just pull it all together and just, it's a continuous thing. And like you said earlier, it's continuous throughout the year. Don't just do it, the instant that terms request comes through and then panic and try and gather all of this stuff. Do it throughout the year and note down where there have been pressure points as well. Because, we could have had something where Amazon had, like you mentioned right at the start, Amazon had price matched somebody incorrectly. And, that gets corrected, but flag it. Because if they come to you saying, we had price pressures on these products and that's the top one on there and that's 90% of the pressure, you can then say, okay, cross through that, then what does this look like? And just make sure that you keep your notes, keep the receipts.
We actually have a client, and he's got time on it to do it, but I think it's beautiful. He has a folder of hundreds of screenshots of where they've misprice matched or they've messed up pricing, and he just hammers it straight to AVS, straight to VMs, and you'll put it on slides during AVN and being like, look, on this date where I showed you this, you miscalculated it, you mismapped, I don't want to pay these extra fines, or I don't want to pay these extra straight payments. And Amazon's like, fair enough, okay, you've got all the evidence, you've got all the data. And when I talk about hundreds of screenshots, he's showing me on the Sledge shared slides. Slip of the tongue there. Hundreds of screenshots of just pure evidence, like backing up his arguments.
That feels like an argument with my wife, to be completely honest.
Does your wife work at Amazon?
Or is that you're buying on Amazon? Like your drone set.
Exactly. She's always got the receipts.
That's a whole different conversation. I downloaded all my bank statements from January, threw them into ChatGPT and said, please tell me where I'm spending, give me some analysis. Partly out of curiosity to see what ChatGPT could do. I will not share with you the amount that we spend on Amazon as a family. The amount of shopping we've moved away from the grocers into Amazon is for pure convenience is terrifying. Terrifyingly convenient.
Yeah. The number of things I've got on subscribe and save. And that's another term that they can throw in as well.
Yeah, it's nice. And you're like, mate, I don't even have subscribe and save products. Let's go. It's, no, subscribe and save is a big one.
If you guys have got any questions and answers, if you've got any questions, we should have the answers. And you're watching this on the first live release, you'll see a little Q&A button somewhere down somewhere down the bottom. That was a slip of the tongue. Down the bottom, bob your questions in, and somebody will be answering those in real time as you're popping them in. But I want to challenge you on, Trav, is we talk a lot about using data to challenge Amazon. We've got an example of a client at the moment who has got all that data. They've got their net PPM tracked in charts coming out of their ears. They've come to terms negotiation, and Amazon has pushed back and said, your net PPM through the floor, we're not interested, we're actually going to pull your POs. This client has been saying to Amazon all along, there's a number of lines that you're matching actually not the right product on a second-hand retail channel, so it's not like for like. And more importantly, you're selling for less than we sell it to you for. You're selling at a loss, and they've proactively held that conversation all the way through. There's been some reseller challenges in the mix, and what our client has put in front of Amazon is a lovely chart that says net PPM was great. You started mismatching, net PPM fell off a cliff. At the same time, we've also cleaned up resellers, and net PPM, as you fixed the price match and we fixed resellers, has gone through the roof. Everything's rosy. And I was going to turn around and gone, tough.
Really?
Absolutely.
I was about to say distribution control when you talked about the reseller and the second-hand outlet.
They've faced into it. We've helped them with the strategy. We've tied it all up. The bit we can't get our head around is if I put that PowerPoint slide in front of my grandma, she'd go, there's a story. I see the data. I see what's happened. Amazon, no, not budging whatsoever. And it's probably leads on to our next question. Is how do you manage when you've got a complete impasse with Amazon? Rightly or wrongly, it's just not moving.
I was about to say, I know we're talking about vendor, but I know which client you're referring to. I just threatened go 3P, play that final card to Amazon. Just say, look, if you guys don't want to come play ball, we're going to have to go 3P. And it's not to like take a dig at Amazon, but the VM has metrics to retain clients. It has metrics to retain a certain sort of margin percentage within the category. So if they lose a big client and they go to seller, you're basically transferring that to another P&L also. So that is the nuclear option, unfortunately. Beyond that, if Amazon doesn't really want to play ball, you could try and incentivize them with maybe product exclusivity, like exclusive products, exclusive lines, bundling. But ultimately, I just said go the nuclear route and play the 3P card. Let's go FBA if you can.
Yeah, I agree. If they're going nuclear with we're switching off, I go nuclear too. And obviously, you hope it never gets to that point. But being able to be able to do that, and you don't need to manage that 3P yourselves. There are third parties. So you can go to 2P technically, and you can do that type of route. But yeah, I'm with you there, and see where you get to, because it could be the case of those products that have been incorrectly price matched and are there. You say that's fine. Those products are going to be 3P products in future. We're going to keep the bulk of our range with you until you come back to the table and we sort that out. And yeah, just play that mix. Hybrid. So we got another how many minutes in? Was that?
This is good. This is really good. Yeah, fantastic. Hybrid 9-12 months ago was like the buzzword of the Amazon industry. You missed it. You got the cup of tea around the microphone. That was brilliant. But it was every LinkedIn post from an Amazon agency or any Amazon consultant was hybrid. I think it became a bit of a joke at the time. But for me, it is a really, really valid solution. If you put yourself into that vendor negotiation and you don't have a backup plan, if your plan is either do what Amazon says or back out of there, and Amazon's one of your big channels, you're absolutely screwed. Yeah. And seller might not be, in some instances, seller can be more profitable. You know, low price items typically work a bit better on vendor from a P&L point of view, high price a bit better on seller. Even if you're not facing into hybrid from a margin optimization point of view, having it as a backup plan to be able to go, you know what, Amazon, bugger off for 3 months, I'm going to go on to seller because I can. I might lose some margin. It might not be ideal. It might be a pain in the backside operationally because I'm a 1P B2B business. But I can do it, and I can have some strength in the conversation.
The thing I tell people is to have the mechanics and all the operations not ready to go, basically, or even trickling over in some sort of small capacity. Even if you're 90% vendor, have that 10% so that if you need to throw more into it or ramp it up, because you can't just magic it. You can open a seller account in 10 minutes, but you can't magic up a whole seller stream and listings and everything else that you want to do in the 25 days that you're freaking out about vendor negotiations. You want to have that done, have that there, and if you'd like, say, if you need to resort to it, you can then just change the valve a little bit from one balance to the other. Absolutely. Obviously, you don't want to put the same product on the same channel at the same time and cause all sorts of crashing problems. But like you say, if you need to then say, actually, this is not working out, let's just move it over to this one. You need to have that option available to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, having that option is always important, and having that operationally ready to go anyway is important. You know, if you think from my perspective, I'm super seasonal. You know, we've just had the Lilo and Stitch movie come out, the live action. We went from selling 10 units a week on products to selling 400 units a week. And can you forecast that? No. Can Amazon's algorithm buy that? Yes, but they're 2 weeks behind.
That's just to Andy's kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, my daughter, it is. I think I've got most of your stock in
so, yeah.
But if you need some back.
We could do with that, actually, yeah. We'll speak after. But, you know, we use FBM as a backup because we don't want to lose that sale. And you think about it, yes, okay, we're going to make less money when we do that, but what's better, having less money or having no money? And that's the conversation that you're getting into there. It's okay, yes, it's more operationally difficult, but what's better, you know, a smaller number or no number.
But also for a seasonal product, if you miss your window, likely you've not there's going to be no sellout in 6 months' time, but you want to ride the wave while it's there.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly.
So if you then miss it because of something, it's the same thing even with. I know this is a slightly different question to what you asked initially, but like, you know, you've got the sell-in numbers. We're seeing them drop off a little bit because they're stocking up and it's getting busy with Prime Day. Warehouses getting full. You know, there's capacity constraints and you're holding stock and Amazon's not got that many weeks stock on hand. If that suddenly goes, that's where you want either an FBA, an FBM, or a direct fulfillment operational route, so that you don't lose that buy box for that period of time. Or if you know, if it's going to from Amazon to yourself or to a 2P or someone else, you've still got sales going out, and having the multiple routes in is just a smart thing to have from an operational angle.
That's it. I think for me, the whole hybrid conversation is one of its advantages is power in negotiation. But there are 9, 10, 20 other advantages of having it. It's interesting, you mentioned there FBM, so you true, like almost hybrid. You've got vendor and seller on FBA and FBM, so you've almost got the ultimate backup plan all the way down the tree.
Yeah, we're
Smart.
set up to do all of the routes.
Yep.
Now we are operationally best as a wholesale business and selling to vendor, and actually for our price point of our products, vendor is the best route for them anyway. And so that is our preferred route, and this is why we aim for the successful vendor negotiations and a good relationship and everything else. But there are times where vendor does fall down because it can't stock up as quickly as we need it to. You know, a new show releases and we've got a 6-week sell period on that. Now, vendor isn't designed for that. Vendor is designed to be ticking along, selling at a decent rate of sale.
Evergreen licenses it works great for, but not your peaky trophy things.
Exactly. And so we will still offer it to vendor, but...
I like the word peaky trophy.
Peaky
Sorry,
trophy.
I like that. I like that.
It can be a word now. I made it up, so we'll go with it.
It's a Peaky Blinders spin-off. It's filming by me at the minute. It's brilliant. But yeah, we can't do that. You know, vendor, yes, we'll offer it and they can take some stock, but we can't convince them like we used to. We can put in born to run orders and everything else, but you can only put in 100 units when you could be selling 10,000 units.
I was going to ask you about Born to Run actually, because I feel like I've heard a lot of noise about them dying off, they're not being so useful, or being charged lots of money for them. Have you seen much about Born to Runs?
Early on, as one like previous podcast, nice, we're not saying webinars anymore. Previous podcasts, I made the claim that it's a launch buy program. You can't put existing products into it, but then some brands can. They get away with it. They put existing products into Born to run up their stock count, whereas we've got partners internally where computer says no, it needs to be a new product. There needs to be no reviews, no sell-through rate, no seller rank. So it kind of feels like Amazon picks and chooses how they use Born to Run. Some people use it as a stocking up method and some use it as a launch buy, but not together or the same.
I don't know whether there's a button that's pressed that allows you to use it like that. But yeah, in the US, it is a new product only. But today, one of my team, she's brilliant. She'll just be going through and firing loads of Born to Run orders into the system.
Just to drive the stock in.
On existing lines.
Yeah. We see that same nuance across various clients. Some use it as a launch vehicle, some use it as a stock injection method, some use it as both, but it doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to who can do what and why.
Because we've always taught it's a launch buyer program, it's for new products. If you don't sell it through, you have to pay a certain amount over a certain time frame, and that's that. But then some brands are like, no, I use it as a topping up function, opportunity buys. Forget about it, never heard of her. And they send it through on Born to Run.
I heard it once, and I'm not condoning this, but like there was an offer on Born to Run where they could just send it in, and if they didn't sell it all, they had to pay 25% and then have it returned or something like that. But the price they were able to sell it in at, and then even if they got it all returned, they were like, well, this stock is, it's not functionally, we were still going to make money on it. So just send as much as you possibly can in. And even if they got the whole thing returned, with the 25% cut, they were like, well, it's a good route out for this stock, which is end of life, or it's kind of going off anyway. So it was a bit weird because they made like 500 grand in sales, and then a few months later had 125 grand come back and start in charges, but they still made money.
But it still made sense.
Still made money. So it's a bit of a weird thing when in wider business then says, hang on a second, why is Amazon charging us back this across that quarter? We've made like no money. He said, well, quarter before we made great money, but just weird. Just Amazon things.
It's the nuances of the Amazon world. We've talked about hybrid. What else have you seen vendors doing as they start to shape up their strategy for next year? What are the more advanced things that brands are doing to future-proof themselves?
I wouldn't say it's advanced, but exclusivity. That is going like a hot commodity now at the moment, giving Amazon exclusive products, whether it's exclusive bundles, exclusive flavors, sizes, variations of a product. You're not competing on margin, you're not price matching, it's all pure profit margin. You're not getting into weird, awkward conversations. So exclusivity, I'd say, is probably the hottest thing underneath the sun now at the moment for Amazon. If you can afford to do it, just going to make your life a lot easier. It incentivizes the VMs because they know they're not competing on price matching with other retailers, other marketplaces. Keeps you happy because you know your profit level's your profit level, and that's that. It's quite a good thing. I'd say future-proof exclusivity.
I think you said if you can afford to do it. I
if you can afford to.
But from different angles, you probably can't afford not to do it. Because I think when you think about protecting yourself from knackering your distribution up, Amazon-only products allow you to protect price. It protects you from price comparison. It holds your net BPM up. It gives you a very clear and specific channel strategy, whether that's seller or vendor. I think the more brands move towards exclusive Amazon products, and how exclusive is exclusive is a debatable question. But I think that proper range for Amazon, and equally having a proper range for Argos, a proper range for Very, where else you're retailing. I think that exclusivity thing's got to be more and more on the forefront of brands' minds.
Do you do it for a period of time, like 4-6 months, or do you do it just indefinitely?
So it really depends. We've used it in leverage and negotiations where we know a business wants to launch it to wider market, but we'll go to the VM during AVN and say, look, we'll give you 6 months of exclusivity. You're the only one selling it at this price. You're not competing on price matching, nothing. But we can only guarantee it for 6 months. What do you think? And a lot of the time they're like, fair enough, let's ride it hard, right until the wheels fall off. So it really depends. I mean, it depends on the VM and what kind of strategy you want to do it. If you want to do it mass market, fair enough. Launch it in Amazon, get the exclusivity there, gauge the interest in it. Or just create a new bundle or a new flavor, a new sizing variation. It doesn't need to be like
reinventing the wheel too much.
Yes, so it does need to be that.
Well, because they clamped down on their bundling strategy not too long ago, or they tightened it up, let's just say. But I mean, if you've got the ability to rework and bundle A with B, I mean, you can kind of create a new ASIN out of the existing framework.
That's it.
If you could make it work.
Slap on nice new packaging, put it in a nice container, and there you have a new ASIN.
I think also Amazon-specific packaging can be an exclusive. If you're selling that, in fact, I might have picked this up from you from our last event, possibly. But if you're selling a product that's in a beautiful blister pack designed to go on a shelf in Argos, bad example, but Smith's Toys, a product needs to look a particular way. It might need big
Open
packaging.
box.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've got to see it and buy into it. Is that expensive for Amazon to ship? Of course it is. So if that goes in a
and you're going to get
box,
a 50 pence per unit chargeback or something like this.
absolutely.
Bubble wrapper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So they actually just the exclusivity doesn't need to be in what the product is. This is actually exclusively designed for the Amazon channel. It ships cheaper. It sells better. It doesn't have to be brand new product.
Yeah, exactly. More than a 5% change on all of the box and the artwork and everything else, and you're there with a new barcode, and you can go and do that. But think about it in terms of channel differentiation as well. If you're looking back on ranges that I've done in the past where we've done exclusivity, we're going to go out and sell, let's say, a range of bins. They're all different colours. Now, a John Lewis is only ever going to take white and stainless steel. Doesn't mean that we're not going to make the white ones, the green ones, the yellow ones, the red ones. Now, who else is going to buy those? Where are they going to be sold? Well, online. So then that's an exclusive, but it's the way that the market's driven that anyway.
Yeah.
So you can sell that as an exclusive. You get stuff back. It might only be a banner, but you get stuff back from Amazon in order to do that. And then there's no price matching and everything else. But yeah, you need to, the thing is, exclusivity it's a difficult thing to do because it's talking in terms of changing a range or a product for this particular channel. But it's something that businesses do all the time anyway. If, let's say, a Smith's come into you and say, I want this, but I want it with a black base, or I want this changing, you'll go, oh, you're going to sell 20,000 units of it. No problem. Here you go. Now, I could be selling 40,000 units of that in the year, but it's like, well, we're going to need to sit on the stock for a year. It's going to be a different pick location. It's going to be this. It's going to be this. It's going to be this. Now, I've kind of come at this from a different way, which is actually to say exclusivity. No, we're going to back away from that slightly because we were developing products purely for Amazon. Now, those products that were purely for Amazon were never going to be bestsellers. They were always going to be the tail anyway. So I've said, let's get involved in the core range. Let's develop the core range so we're thinking about it with Amazon in mind and price points in mind, so that when that's sold out to the wider market, actually we're more or less aligned on price anyway, because that's where you're at. Think about what you're selling that product to on the other side of sales. Don't go out and do a pallet deal with some random guy. We used to have one. It was the Red Door in Shipley. It was a house in Shipley, red front door, and they would buy pallets of stock from us. And it was like, oh, brilliant! They bought another pallet. And it was just going straight onto Amazon, cutting the price and everything else. So it's thinking about it in those terms. Now we are going to start introducing more Amazon exclusives again, and they might just be repacks. They might be things where we're putting extra stickers in the box in order to show more value for the same price. But we've now got a much cleaner range. We've got a much more kind of e-com friendly range, and now these exclusives, when we add them back, they're going to be accretive rather than just being a distraction as such.
How have you got to that stage? Because for a business where Amazon isn't a major channel, that's a massive step to be taken. Even think about just developing product with the Amazon customer in mind, or then getting to exclusives. Did you find that came at a tipping point in the maturity of your business? Did you almost get to a point in scale where it was like, right, this is worth doing this now?
Luckily, and not just saying this because they might be listening, but the leaders of the organisation are I hope they are. The leaders of the organisation are listening, and they're willing, because they understand that actually, even though Amazon were one of the larger customers, they weren't the largest, but they probably should be. You know, if you think about or could be, and you think about where you do those like last minute buys, you know, you'll be going to like birthday parties in future, and it'll be a case of, I need to buy something, order it, next day it arrives, and that's perfect for our type of product. That's where we should be sat. We are convenience, we're mass, we're specialty, we're all of these things. We're all rolled into one, and so they're willing to listen. They're willing to back it. But it, you know, my role for the first 6 months was really to be the Amazon evangelist in the business, and to go around, explain what I could also do for those teams. You know, looking at tools like Helium 10 or whatever, and saying, look, this is the data. I can help you guys to develop your products. This is what's being searched for. This is what's doing, and kind of use us as a service team, as well as just another message in the inbox that's asking you to do work. And so it was a lot of that, getting people on side. But that, back to negotiations again, that's a thread right the way through it. Making sure that you're visible, making sure that people understand these things, because when it comes up, it's not then a surprise. You know.
Oh, I mean, I'm going to go way beyond my pay grade here, but I've seen that with like reviews, for example. When you see the reviews on your listing, you can then see what people like. And if you go to your competitors' reviews, and you can see what they don't like about your competitors, and you know, say, oh, this came and the button was too sticky, or the thing was too loud, or whatever, or it's, you know, it's a nighttime thing, but it was too bright, or something like that. It's my baby talk getting, but like, but like, you know, batteries died too soon, or something like that. They then become selling points for your product. So then, like you're saying, it's not just I'm Amazon and you're John Lewis and you're Tesco. It's I'm Amazon and I'm also generating a huge amount of insight for the business. How can we then take that and actually say, you know, the same customer who buys in Tesco is probably also going on Amazon, you know, in the middle of the night buying presents for birthday gifts, you know, but then what are they looking for, and how do we then market that differently? How do we do that? The products in mind, and then it goes through the whole spectrum. But as will be on my pay grade, because I'm much more
not
in
at
the
all.
nuts and
Not
bolts.
at all. Great advice.
I saw it as a fun thing.
point.
They don't like reviews, but
And that's a brilliant use of AI as well. This
just
is
ingest it all and then tell me what's
exactly.
Did you find when the business became more Amazon centric, did that shift your relationship with Amazon? Did that make your not just negotiation, but the entire conversation with them easier?
No, because I'd told them that would happen.
So it had to happen.
Exactly. I'd kind of sold them the dream. I'd sold Amazon the dream. This is what we're going to do. This is what I'm going to bring to you. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to land. And so it was on me to then go and do that. And, you know, that was, I mean, it's part of the interview process. What are you going to do in the first 100 days? I'm going to show you what Amazon can do for you rather than the other way around. And, you know, I'm kind of Amazon's mouthpiece in the business as much as the other way around.
Is that what you say in the negotiations? They say, we want this, and you say, hang on a second, I want to tell you that I'm your mouthpiece in my company. I'm on your side.
Yeah, and this is the thing. It's, you know, I go into those negotiations actually very open and very honest with things. You know, I get presented here's a banner. I just say to them, it's not going to work. Like, I'm not even going to look at them. I'm not even going to entertain it. Yeah. We'll move on. And my vendor manager, again, hope he's listening because he is brilliant. But
this is all part of your negotiation.
Exactly. Yeah,
he's got foundation. You've got a good jalfrezi for him next time.
Yeah. Oh no, he's based in Italy, so the food's fantastic. But no, it's when I'm speaking to him, our very very first chat, I said to him, let's start a terms negotiation, and he'd never had anyone ask that before. I doubt that many people
you asked
have.
Amazon for a term.
Yes,
That's like
You all right?
the Uno reverse card.
Yeah.
It's coming out. Here's my terms.
glutton for punishment. that's what it
Negotiation
is.
tactic number 1: get
Yeah.
them on the back foot.
Exactly, yeah. And this is what I said. I said, I've done a lot of these. The terms were all over the place, and we were working with an agency, and they were a good partner historically, and they weren't right for the next stages of growth that we had. And when I went through, and the very first thing that I did was, like you say, go into the numbers, go into the data and see what had happened there. Now, because this agency weren't experts in vendor, what they were doing is rather than pushing through cost price increases the proper way, which is you send them to Amazon and Amazon keeps saying no for a year, they had just started new vendor codes.
Oh, right.
And they just gone, here's a new vendor code. And
with a new listing and that's
with
the
a
price.
new listing with a new price.
Yeah.
Now, each of those vendor codes had a different set of terms on them. So we had in the UK.
That does sound like a mess.
We had 27 different vendor codes in the UK. Now, some of them are codes you'll know
like
better than
dummy
anyone.
codes, but
There'll be dummy codes. There'll be pallet ordering codes.
Yeah.
There'll be things like this. But there were 6 different codes that each had a different set of terms. And so what Amazon's algorithm would do is it would say, okay, this product, it's been ordered in December, it's likely to be returned in January, so we'll order it through this vendor code because there's a returns right on there.
Oh, right.
Whereas throughout the year, it will be ordered on the one with the nil returns agreement, which is brilliant. It works for them. But then the warehouse, I went into the warehouse and said to the guys, what pressures are you feeling? And obviously they just reel off a list. This is what's going wrong.
Sit down.
Yeah, exactly. And they said, we're getting returns. I was told we had a nil returns agreement. And I said, well, we do, but not for all of the vendor codes. So we needed to tidy up all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But because I started from that, look, I've done a couple of these, and you mentioned Anne Finch. The annoying thing is he's always going to be a year ahead of me on these. I think he's done 14. But we, he knows to not bullshit me, and he knows there's no point in me coming to you with this. So his initial ask was always, it was fair, it was reasonable, we were in a good place from it. And just being open and honest about it, I'm not going to accept anything that doesn't show an ROI. Yeah. And he was brilliant. And he said, right, that co-op agreement that was over 10% just on a pure co-op, we're going to shift that. We're going to give you this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this.
I think everyone listening wants your vendor manager now.
Oh, you can't have him. I don't want him doing anything else. He's brilliant. But and we then lent into AVS. I went to call it SVS there. It means I've been in the game for too long.
Yeah.
But yeah, we lent into things like that and those programs, the things that could actually add growth. And then, a year on, I'd said, we're going to bring growth, we're going to increase the sales, we're going to hit this number. We hit all of those things. And so then the next round was way, way easier. And even if we did have a different vendor manager, everything's documented.
Yeah.
And did you consolidate those 27 or 6?
Yes. Yeah. We've now got one for Germany, one for France, one for Italy, one for Spain, one for the UK that we order through. Which then caused a knock-on issue because we all of our Amazon advertising was deduct. And so it was trying to deduct from a vendor code that didn't exist anymore.
Nice.
So always watch for those things.
Was that ads taken offline for a period, or?
Yes, yeah. Only one day while we worked out what was happening.
Good.
But that's it. And so I always come in really honest. This is the pressure that we're seeing. I can understand that this is the pressure that you're seeing. Let's talk through it. But let's kind of bring those numbers and bring the data and everything else. But what are we going to add for each other? And I'm going to go into the business. I'm going to bring you exclusives and growth and all the rest of these good things. What are you going to do for me? Okay, you're going to give me the best SVS guy. Did it? Our AVS is brilliant. He's absolutely fantastic. He's on it. And we've had the same one for 18 months now, which again, that in itself is fantastic. Yeah. And so these are things that they've brought to me because I've backed up what I've said.
And I think it's back to that human relationship.
Yeah.
We're all humans, unless you get one of those Amazon robots that have like fully drank the Amazon Kool-Aid, and it's like, these are the guidelines. We don't deviate from the guidelines. Computer says no.
Yeah.
Then you kind of stuck. But if you build those interpersonal relationships, like mate, I want a promotion, you want a promotion, let's help each other get there type thing. What do
Spot
you
on.
need to get to the next point, and this is what I
Mm.
need to get to the next point. I think if you get that understanding and you get that sort of mutual level of respect, it does a lot. Well, clearly it does a lot.
And this is the thing, I only know this because I've done it wrong so many times.
Best way of learning.
Yeah, and that's it. You break it, you learn. You break it, you learn. And I look back at some of those negotiations, and we were going in and we were telling Amazon, we're not going to listen to you on the next terms request. What's that going to do? It does nothing other than
Sour.
Yeah, exactly. And so looking back on those things, it felt like the right thing at the time to say, next year we're not going to engage. Well, what does that mean to Amazon? It means that you're straight away they're going to go to enforcement because you've told them you're not
Straight
going
on
to
the
listen
back
to
foot,
them.
negative
Exactly.
reaction.
Yeah. And at the time it felt right. It felt like saying, this is the line, we're not going to go any further, but it wasn't right. It's not a negotiation. It's trying to get back into that, relationship, JBP, thinking in those terms rather than thinking just, this is the number, and then back and forth until you get to the middle.
I mean, you mentioned relationship as well. Like one of the things that we do on our side, obviously, like the EDI integration, and it really becomes that conversation piece to say, look, we're investing in this relationship. Like people don't work with us unless they're thinking long term for their relationship with vendor. If you're in it and then you think, oh, in the next 6 months, 9 months, we could be out. You're not going to be investing in expanding into, get my 3PL set up in Europe, get my supply chain working smoothly for that particular route, get direct import going, make my connections all work. Whereas, people go to Amazon and say, oh no, we put these systems in place. We've now got a fully streamlined operation. We can see that our chargebacks and shortages have come right down. We want to work with you. Like we're part of that partnership, right? We're seeing these issues, but we're working on them from our side. What are you doing from your side? How can we continue to make this the best relationship that you can have? I know it's not quite the theme, but like shortages and chargebacks are like a painful point for vendors. You can go into the negotiation saying like, well, we like selling stuff to you. We don't like not getting paid for it.
Interesting dynamic.
Yeah, exactly. We send you, 100 and we get paid 95. We don't like losing the 5. And Amazon doesn't like it either. Say what you will about that whole topic. But it's they don't like that either from their side. It's an inefficiency. It's got some big human manual element involved there. If you can then say, we're doing what we can from our side to bag products, to make Amazon exclusives, to lean into this, like you say, you're setting the tone of we're investing on this stuff from our side. Here's what we'd like to achieve, but we can't hit it with those numbers you're asking for. Here's our supply chain costs. We all saw it's come down a bit more recently, but when container prices went sky high and then come down and then they come back up again, we all see that.
Peaky trophy.
Very peaky trophy.
You trademark that. I like that.
That'll be on the next mug.
Peaky trophy.
Obviously Amazon's just going to say that's a temporary thing. You can't translate that into a price increase. But if you can demonstrate long-term, substantially raised supply chain costs, that you can say, look, the cost of materials from our supplier is now X plus 20%, and it always will be that. We can't make a profit on this product anymore. And so on, then you can try and have that conversation and push it through. But like you say, it's going in with the numbers, going in with that relationship in mind, being willing to take some concessions on some fronts, but then also knowing where you're gaining on others. And I would also examine the different programs that you've got set up. Like I don't even know if people still use Vine or anything like that these days. But a lot of people pay for Vine, but don't ever use it, or they pay for they've committed to spend a certain amount on this, and they never actually leverage it. So it's like you want to make sure you're either getting your money's worth, or say, okay, let's actually take that out and put it at least into something else.
Well, that comes back to, for me, knowing what you want out of Amazon. We'll talk to brands who are in a launch phase. There's a lot of NPD coming down the line. Did you build Vine into your negotiation? Oh, no, we didn't build Vine. Like, you are launching, and Amazon has a product to help you launch new products, but you didn't build that into strategic negotiation. No, we've got picks sorted. Have you got any operational shipping problems? No, but we've got picks in there. To me, it's starting with the end game in mind. And then, I'm surprised that actually it's taken us this time to come to Vine, because it's another great thing that Amazon offers, or equally a really, really crap thing if you don't know what you want out of it. Having it or not having it in your deal with Amazon could be valuable.
We've added it back in this year.
Have you?
Yeah.
Even though you've got the hybrid model, you've gone back for Vine on vendor.
Yes, because if we are going to, there's always going to be a give and take with any negotiations, and if you need to give a little because it's right and because it's the way to just make sure that you just keep on moving, where are you going to give that? Are you going to give that in a program like Vine, or are you going to give that as a straight pay? Now, I'm always going to do that where I'm going to get credits and be able to get these
value out of
things.
it.
Yeah.
But we had the same last year, and I had it in the past as well, where we put A+ premium in. Now, I was working on hybrid on both of those occasions. I can get A+ premium for free.
Yeah.
I do my brand stories, and then I've got my A+ premium for free. But there's a pot of money that is just going into a co-op. So can I then set it up in vendor as well as that? And if things are breaking, which is more likely to get the contributor score to actually keep the page live, it's going to be vendor. Great, I'll use that. And so there are things where it may not actually be perfect for you, but if you need to give money, well,
Get something
Work
for
out
it.
what
get something for it.
Yeah.
I think the same is true of returns as well. I know you mentioned it earlier, but like knowing your numbers, because some people actually just say, we'll accept returns because we don't want to have to pay the extra for the no returns clause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because overall it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Or, obviously the warehouse is not going to be your best friend about it. Find a way of working with that stock that comes back in, either through, going on to another partner or reworking it in some shape or form. But if some people pay for returns, and then if you actually look at them and say, how many would you have had, or how many did Amazon dispose of? Actually, I think you're probably overpaying for that on that side. But
Just on returns as well, always ask for the breakdown, because if you look at the breakdown now, I'm not covered by Gscop right now. I'm not. I'm selling gifting
Plushies.
items. Yeah, exactly. I'm not in that space. But if you look at the breakdown, one of the bits of that breakdown will be their warehouse damaged. Now, why should we pay for their damages in their warehouse? Now, that is. You look at Gscop. That's classed as spoilage. That's their problem. That's their fault. If somebody steals something from a Tesco store, that manufacturer shouldn't be covering the cost of that. And it's the same type of thing. And so these negotiations, if you are covered by Gscop, that's the kind of thing where you can look at that and actually negotiate slightly differently. Now that Amazon are covered as well, you can put pressures on from that.
It's a really good tip.
Conscious, we've had a very, very good conversation. We've jumped around a few areas here. We've talked about knowing your data, playing the human element, knowing what you want out of negotiations. If I was to do a very quick round-robin rounders, what would you say is your one biggest tip facing into your next Amazon vendor negotiation?
Don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to challenge. Don't be afraid to dig your heels in the ground and ask why. What am I getting out of this? Don't just make it all about you. Obviously, like we mentioned, it's a bit of a tango. You need to give, you need to take. But don't be afraid to say no. Don't roll over and just say yes to everything Amazon offers. Not all that glitters is gold, especially in the Amazon world. Let's say that.
yeah, I'm actually going to say something different from what we've been talking about this whole session as well. I mean, obviously, because it's
That's a curveball.
I know. Well, I mean, we talk about know your data and so on, but a new one. I mean, we've kind of touched on it, to be fair, but building that relationship with your vendor manager where possible. And I understand that the turnover can happen, things can change, but if you can meet them in Liverpool Street for a meal, if you can go out to wherever they're based across Europe to go see them, if you can say, here's a new product, let's send you some, I want to work with you. Some people won't fly out to the country they're based in and go meet them, but some people will. And then you can then use that and say, actually, we've got a relationship, let's try and work things out. I like what you said about being proactive to actually engage them on it. And then the relationship with Amazon, and then the relationship internally as well. Like what you're saying to do with talking to your company director, saying, here's what Amazon's going to be asking for, here's what we're doing, here's what I'd like to achieve, here's my 5-year view of how net PPM and our margins are going to change over time, here's what I think sustainable, here's what's not sustainable. I think that long view on things, I think, is very important. But I think you have to go into it with the idea that actually our product's going to rotate, the Amazon account manager is going to rotate, our countries are going to do this. That's just life, But actually, I'm just going to have to keep doing that. But it's worth investing in, because if the channel is 5 million a year, you're going to fly out there and buy them a curry or whatever it's going to be. Obviously, you've got to keep it within the rules of what you're doing. But in terms of actually having a face-to-face contact, I think would be, if you can do it, it's worth doing.
100%. Definitely. You covered mine, which was the internal, aligning internally. So what I'll say again is lean on the industry. Talk to other people that are in the same space, even if it's just a group therapy session about what Amazon are throwing at you this time. Have those conversations, and it's strange because it's such a big industry. It's many hundreds of billions. Amazon's $1 trillion business, but we're all still quite insulated. We're all quite closed off. and actually everybody knows everyone. How many times have we run into each other at events? Use those contacts. It's still a small space. There's still not that many experts out there. Lean on each other and make sure that you're getting the best, newest knowledge.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing your insights. It's been useful to me, so hopefully it's been useful to everybody else that's joined us today and listened to what we've all had to say. So thank you very much for your time. We will have more episodes coming, so by all means, please keep an eye out on our website and our marketing. We'll be in touch, let you know when the next episode is coming. Who knows what the topic might be, but thank you for joining us. Thanks to you guys. We'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.